The Pentagon had 72 hours before their most critical mission in a decade would fall apart. Not because of enemy intelligence, not because of equipment failure, but because 12 Navy SEALs refused to board the transport plane without one person, Dr. Maya Rodriguez, the night shift doctor they'd just fired for insubordination. What they didn't know was that Maya had discovered something that went far beyond medical negligence, a conspiracy that had already killed one whistleblower, a cover-up worth $200 million, and a threat that would force her to choose between saving the SEALs and exposing the truth. This is her story. Dr. Maya Rodriguez checked her watch. 02:30 hours, Friday morning. Another quiet night at Mercy Point Naval Hospital in San Diego. She'd been choosing night shifts for 8 years now, ever since her brother died. Nobody at Mercy Point knew about Daniel. She didn't talk about him, didn't keep his photo on her desk, didn't mention that he'd been a Marine Corps corpsman who died during a training exercise in 2017. Officially, it was listed as acute respiratory failure. Unofficially, Maya had seen his autopsy report. Toxic exposure, environmental contamination at a training facility that was supposed to be safe. The investigation had been quiet, quick and conclusive. Tragic accident, no fault assigned, case closed. Maya had stopped trusting official conclusions after that. She became a doctor to catch the things other people missed, the subtle signs, the patterns, the cases where the textbook answer wasn't the right answer. And she chose night shifts because that's when she could practice medicine her way, without administrators watching every decision, counting every cost. But hospital administration had been watching anyway. Dr. Kenneth Hartwell, Chief of Staff at Mercy Point, had a file on her. She knew this because he'd shown it to her during their last 3 meetings. Every unauthorized test, every protocol violation, every expensive intervention that had saved a patient's life but damaged the hospital's efficiency rating. Mercy Point was competing to renew a $40 million Department of Defense contract. That contract required a 98% efficiency rating measured by cost per patient outcome metrics. Maya's expensive decision-making was dragging that rating down to 96.8%. Hartwell had been clear, one more violation and she was done. Maya was thinking about this when Sergeant David Torres walked through the emergency entrance at 02:45 hours, supported by his buddy. Torres was 29, Marine Corps, 2 combat deployments. His friend said he'd been feeling off for 2 days. Fatigue, mild fever, nothing dramatic. The triage nurse logged him. Temperature 99.8, heart rate 92. Probable viral infection, standard protocol, observation and discharge. Maya looked at his chart and felt something click. She couldn't explain it, just pattern recognition, something about the presentation, the timeline, the subtle details that didn't quite fit viral infection. She went to examine him personally, asked about his activities in the past week. Torres mentioned training exercises at the base. Standard stuff, outside drills. Every indicator said this was routine. Every protocol said, observe for 2 hours, send him home with instructions to rest. Maya's instinct said something else entirely. She ordered comprehensive blood work. Full metabolic panel, inflammatory markers, blood cultures, toxic screening. The kind of workup that costs $12,000 and is reserved for critically ill patients. Karen Durst, the night supervisor and Hartwell's enforcer, saw the order queue. She pulled Maya aside with barely concealed anger. "He has a cold, Dr. Rodriguez. You're doing it again." Maya tried to explain. The pattern, the instinct. Durst cut her off and called Dr. Hartwell at 0300 in the morning. 20 minutes later, Maya's phone rang. Hartwell's voice was cold. "This is your 4th violation in 6 months. I warned you. One more incident and you're finished." Maya made her choice. I'm running the tests. I'll document my medical reasoning. Then document your termination paperwork too, because if you're wrong about this, Dr. Rodriguez, you're done. The line went dead. Maya ran the tests. 3 hours later, at 600 Friday morning, the results came back. Torres wasn't fighting a virus. He was in early-stage sepsis, triggered by organophosphate exposure. Another 6 hours, and he'd have been in organ failure. She started aggressive treatment. By 700, Torres was stable and improving. By 800, he'd make a full recovery. At 900, Maya was called to Hartwell's office. He acknowledged her intervention had saved Torres's life. Then he reminded her she'd violated direct orders, cost the hospital $12,000, dropped the efficiency rating another point, put the DoD contract renewal at risk. He gave her a final warning. One more incident, just one, and I'll have security escort you out. Maya left his office and went home. She tried to sleep, but couldn't. She kept thinking about the organophosphate traces in Torres's blood work, about her brother Daniel, about environmental contamination at training facilities, about the patterns nobody else was seeing. What Maya didn't know was that 40 miles north at Naval Station Coronado, someone else was seeing patterns too. Petty Officer Ryan Mitchell was the senior medical specialist for SEAL Team 7. His team was preparing for a classified deployment Monday morning, 72 hours away, high-level Pentagon mission, months of planning, the kind of operation that could shift regional power dynamics. But 3 of his teammates were showing symptoms that bothered him. Nothing dramatic: fatigue, mild headaches, low-grade fevers. The base physician, Dr. Vincent Carlisle, had examined all 12 operators Thursday and cleared them for deployment. But Mitchell had trained under Dr. Maya Rodriguez 2 years ago when she was still active duty. She'd taught him to trust pattern recognition, to pay attention when things didn't feel right. He put in a request for Dr. Rodriguez to examine his teammates. The request was denied. She worked night shift at a different facility, no official connection to SEAL Team 7. Dr. Carlisle had already cleared them. Request marked unnecessary. Mitchell let it drop. He had no evidence, just a feeling. And feelings didn't stop deployments. Friday night, Maya returned to Mercy Point for her shift. She was distracted, still thinking about Torres, about the organophosphate exposure. Her friend, Nurse Jessica Kim, noticed and pulled her aside. Jessica had worked at Mercy Point for 6 years. She understood the politics. She warned Maya, a new hospital director, is obsessed with that DoD contract, $40 million over 5 years, jobs for 200 people, facility upgrades, but it requires perfect metrics. You're making the numbers look bad. Maya asked what Jessica expected her to do. Stop saving lives to protect spreadsheets? Jessica didn't have an answer for that. At 21:30 Friday night, 3 patients arrived at Mercy Point Emergency, all Navy personnel, all presenting with identical symptoms: fatigue, mild fever, headache. Triage classified them as low-priority viral infection. Maya reviewed their charts and felt her pulse spike. She walked to the first patient. Where are you stationed? Naval Station Coronado. What unit? SEAL Team 7 support staff. She checked the second patient. Same answers. Third patient? Same. 3 men from the same unit. Same symptoms, same time frame, same exposure window. Just like Daniel. Maya ordered the same comprehensive workup she'd run on Torres. Karen Durst appeared immediately. You're doing it again, right in front of me. These men have colds. Maya tried to explain about the pattern, about Torres, about potential environmental contamination. Durst was already dialing. Dr. Hartwell, we have a situation. This time, Hartwell came in personally. He arrived at 23:45 hours carrying a file folder. He took Maya to the conference room. Inside the folder, documentation of her 4 previous violations, cost analysis showing $36,000 in unauthorized tests in 2 weeks, a termination letter already prepared. "You've left me no choice, Dr. Rodriguez." Maya tried to explain about the 3 patients, about the connection to SEAL Team 7, about her suspicion of contamination. Hartwell asked if she had proof, documentation, official reports. She had instinct, pattern recognition, the same tools that had saved Torres. It wasn't enough. Hartwell signed the termination letter, effective immediately. He called security. Maya packed her locker at 1:15 Saturday morning. Jessica tried to comfort her, but there was nothing to say. Security walked her to her car. She sat in the driver's seat, numb. She'd just lost everything: career, income, professional reputation. The story would spread. The doctor who couldn't follow rules, who cost hospitals money, who thought she knew better than the system. Her phone buzzed. Email notification. Lab results automatically forwarded before IT revoked her access. The 3 Navy patients showed the same organophosphate exposure markers as Torres, or higher levels. And a note from the lab tech. "Dr. Rodriguez, these markers are consistent with acute environmental contamination. Recommend immediate source investigation and expanded testing." Maya's hands started shaking. She'd been right. These men had been exposed to something toxic. And if they were SEAL Team 7 support staff, if they'd been training in the same location as the operators. She called Mercy Point, tried to reach the current attending. The desk nurse saw her terminated status and refused to connect her. Hospital policy. She called Hartwell directly, voicemail. She left a message about the lab results, the exposure, the urgent need to test SEAL Team 7 before Monday's deployment. She called Ryan Mitchell, voicemail, left a message. "Mitchell, this is Dr. Rodriguez. I have lab results showing toxic exposure in 3 of your support staff. Your team is in danger. Call me immediately." She sat in her car for 20 minutes waiting for callbacks that never came. Then she made a decision that would change everything. She drove to her apartment, changed clothes, and grabbed something from her closet. A locked box she hadn't opened in 7 years. Inside, her brother Daniel's autopsy report, his toxicology results, the training facility investigation records she'd obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request. And a name. The contractor who'd certified that facility as safe, Sentinel Defense Solutions. She opened her laptop and started searching. Sentinel Defense Solutions, defense contractor, decontamination work. The company had multiple DoD contracts, dozens of facilities certified as safe. Including Building 6 at Naval Station Coronado. Decontamination completed 2019, certified safe for training use. Maya felt ice in her stomach. She pulled up Daniel's file again. The facility where he died, also certified by Sentinel Defense Solutions, also cleared for training, also contaminated. This wasn't negligence, this was a pattern. Her phone rang, unknown number. She answered, a voice she didn't recognize. "Dr. Rodriguez, my name is Captain Lisa Chen. I'm a contracting officer with the DoD Inspector General's office. I need to speak with you about Sentinel Defense Solutions. Can we meet?" Maya's heart was racing. "How did you get this number?" "Your brother filed a complaint before he died about facility contamination. We've been investigating Sentinel for 3 years. Well, I think you just found another contaminated site. SEAL Team 7, they deploy Monday morning." There was silence on the line. Then, "Meet me at the Starbucks on Coronado Avenue in 1 hour. Come alone. Don't tell anyone you're coming." The line went dead. Maya sat staring at her phone. 7 years ago, her brother had tried to expose Sentinel. He'd died before he could. Now she had evidence. Now she had a chance. but she had less than 48 hours before 12 SEALs deployed into a potential death trap. She grabbed her keys and headed for Coronado. The Starbucks parking lot was nearly empty at 02:45 Saturday morning. Maya parked under a streetlight and waited. 5 minutes later, a dark sedan pulled in next to her. A woman in civilian clothes stepped out, mid-40s, serious face, DOD credentials. Captain Lisa Chen got into Maya's passenger seat without greeting. She placed a tablet on the dashboard showing surveillance photos of Building 6 at Naval Station Coronado. Your brother Daniel filed a complaint about Sentinel Defense Solutions 6 weeks before he died. He had evidence they were falsifying decontamination reports, taking DOD money, filing paperwork, not doing the actual work. Buildings that were supposed to be safe were still contaminated. Maya's throat tightened. What happened to his complaint? Buried. Sentinel has powerful friends, former flag officers on their board, congressional connections, DOD contracts worth $200 million annually. Your brother's complaint was classified as unsubstantiated and sealed. He died trying to prove it. Chen nodded slowly. And now you've found 3 more victims. A SEAL Team 7 support staff training at Building 6, which Sentinel certified as decontaminated in 2019. The whole team was in that building, 12 operators. They deploy Monday morning. Chen's expression darkened. If they deploy contaminated and the mission fails, questions will be asked. Investigations will be launched. Sentinel's entire operation could be exposed. Maya understood. They'll do anything to prevent that exposure. They already have. The investigator who was helping me build the case against Sentinel was found dead 3 months ago, ruled a suicide, but he was scared in the weeks before he died, said someone was following him. Maya felt fear creep up her spine. Why are you telling me this? Because I need someone on the inside, someone with medical access. Someone who can test those operators and prove the contamination before they deploy. I have the documentation to bring Sentinel down, but I need irrefutable proof of harm, living victims, medical evidence. I was just fired. I have no access. Chen handed her a card. You have this. My direct line. Test those operators. Get me medical proof. I'll handle the rest. And if Sentinel finds out what I'm doing, then be very, very careful, Dr. Rodriguez. Chen got out of the car and drove away, leaving Maya sitting in the parking lot with a card and a choice: walk away and stay safe, or do what her brother couldn't finish. She drove to Naval Station Coronado. Using her expired military ID, she talked her way past base security at 0400 hours, found the SEAL Team 7 building. I found Ryan Mitchell in the team room going through equipment checks. He looked up, surprised. Dr. Rodriguez, what are you doing here? She showed him the lab results on her phone, explained about the 3 support staff members, about the organophosphate exposure, about Building 6. Mitchell's face changed. He pulled up training logs. Team 7 had run exercises in Building 6 for 3 days, 40 hours of exposure time. Where is Building 6? Maya asked. Northeast corner of base, old chemical warfare facility, decontaminated in 2019. Show me. They drove across base in Mitchell's truck. Building 6 was isolated, surrounded by chain-link fence. Warning signs, authorized personnel only. The structure looked abandoned, peeling paint, broken windows, but inside recent activity, boot prints, disturbed dust, fresh equipment marks. But Maya took samples, dust from the floor, residue from the walls. She'd test them herself if she had to. Mitchell pulled out his phone. I need to tell Commander Blake. He needs to know. Lieutenant Commander Aaron Blake arrived 30 minutes later. He was old-school Navy SEAL, late 30s, the kind of officer who'd earned his team's respect through competence, not politics. He examined the building with Maya and Mitchell. Blake had served with Maya's brother Daniel. He'd been there when Daniel died. He looked at Maya differently when he made the connection. Daniel Rodriguez was your brother. Yes. He tried to expose this. Sentinel Defense Solutions. And now they're about to kill another team. Blake made a decision. We need to test my operators, all 12, right now. He tried going through official channels, or he called the base physician, Dr. Vincent Carlisle. Carlisle was unavailable. Called the base hospital for emergency testing. They needed authorization from Carlisle or the base commander. Blake called the base commander's office. Saturday morning, no answer. Called the deputy commander, no answer. Called the operations officer. Finally, reached someone who said he'd look into it. They waited an hour, no callback. Blake called again. The operations officer said he'd spoken with Dr. Carlisle, who confirmed Team 7 had been properly examined and cleared. No medical basis for additional testing. Blake looked at Maya. Can you test them without authorization? Maya explained she'd been fired. Had no hospital access, no official capacity. Mitchell said Wixia. But you could test them if we brought them to you, or off base. It would be completely unauthorized, potentially illegal, career-ending if discovered, and if Sentinel found out. Maya thought about Daniel, about Captain Chen's dead investigator, about 12 operators heading into deployment with poison in their blood. Bring them to my apartment, starting at 1400 hours, 2 at a time, civilian clothes. For the next 6 hours, Dr. Maya Rodriguez ran an underground medical operation from her apartment. Jessica Kim had smuggled supplies from Mercy Point. An independent lab director who owed Maya a favor agreed to rush the testing. Blake's operators came in pairs, professional, trusting. They knew Maya's reputation. They knew Mitchell trusted her. Several knew she was Daniel Rodriguez's sister. That meant something. Maya drew blood, documented symptoms, ran assessments. Most felt fine, but maybe tired. 2 admitted to headaches. 1 had muscle aches. By 1900 hours, all 12 samples were at the lab. While they waited for results, Blake asked Maya about Daniel, about what had happened 7 years ago. She told him everything, the complaint, the investigation, the burial, Daniel's death. Blake told her something she didn't know. Daniel had come to him 3 days before he died, said someone had broken into his quarters. Files were missing. He was scared but determined to finish what he'd started. I should have protected him, Blake said. I should have taken it more seriously. You couldn't have known. I know that now. I won't make the same mistake twice. Something shifted between them, a connection, trust built on shared grief and shared purpose. The first lab results came back at 2100 hours. 9 of 12 operators showed elevated exposure markers. 4 showed acute contamination requiring immediate intervention. Maya documented everything and sent it to Blake. He took it straight to the base commander. The base commander read it, then called Admiral Richard Brennan, the task force commander overseeing Monday's deployment. Admiral Brennan had spent 3 years planning this mission, high-level Pentagon support, career-making operation. Success meant his 4th star. He read Blake's report and dismissed it. Dr. Rodriguez was fired from Mercy Point for unauthorized interventions. She's fabricating this to save her job. Blake argued the testing was legitimate. The exposure was real. Deploying compromised operators would guarantee mission failure. Brennan cut him off. Dr. Carlisle cleared your team. Aye, that's the official medical opinion. We deploy on schedule, that's an order. Blake faced his choice. Follow orders and deploy a poison team, refuse and face court-martial, or find another way. He went back to Team 7 at 2300 hours Saturday night and laid out everything, the exposure, the test results, the Admiral's orders. He gave them the medical facts and let them decide. Ryan Mitchell spoke first. "We've deployed hurt before, but never when command knows we're compromised. This isn't courage, it's being thrown away." David Torres, the sergeant Maya had saved 2 weeks ago, stood up. "Dr. Rodriguez saved my life when everyone missed it. She lost her job trying to save us. I'm not boarding that plane without her clearance." One by one, all 12 operators agreed they wouldn't deploy without Dr. Rodriguez's medical clearance. A word reached Admiral Brennan at midnight. He called it mutiny. Blake corrected him. 12 operators exercising medical judgment, sir." Brennan was trapped. The mission couldn't wait. No backup team existed. Either Team 7 deployed or the operation failed. And if it failed because he'd deployed a contaminated team. At 200 Sunday morning, Maya's apartment door shook with heavy pounding. She opened it to find 2 men in suits, DOD security credentials. "Dr. Rodriguez, you need to come with us." They weren't asking. She was driven to Naval Station Coronado, taken to a conference room. Admiral Brennan was there, base commander, Pentagon liaison, legal counsel, and one more person via video screen, a Sentinel Defense Solutions executive named Marcus Webb. Webb was smooth, corporate, dangerous. "Dr. Rodriguez, these allegations about Building 6 are serious. Sentinel takes safety very seriously. We'd like to resolve this concern cooperatively." Maya recognized the threat underneath the politeness. Cooperatively meant quietly, meant making this go away. Admiral Brennan took over. "Dr. Rodriguez, you've created a serious problem. You've convinced an elite SEAL team to refuse deployment based on unsubstantiated medical claims. I need you to retract your findings." "They're not unsubstantiated. The lab results are from an unauthorized testing operation," Brennan interrupted. "Conducted by a terminated employee with no official status. Inadmissible." The Pentagon liaison leaned forward. "However, if you're willing to acknowledge you may have misinterpreted the results, we can find a resolution that works for everyone." Maya understood. Yeah, they wanted her to back down, to say she was wrong, to let the deployment proceed. In exchange, they'd probably offer her job back. A clean slate, no consequences. All she had to do was let 12 men deploy to their deaths. She looked at Marcus Webb on the screen, at the smug confidence in his expression. This was how they'd silenced her brother. Pressure. Threats disguised as cooperation. "No," she said quietly. Brennan's face hardened. "I'm giving you a direct order, Dr. Rodriguez. You will retract." "I'm not military. You can't order me to do anything. And I'm not retracting medical findings that are accurate. Those men are contaminated. Building 6 is toxic. And Sentinel Defense Solutions falsified the decontamination reports." Marcus Webb's expression changed. The politeness dropped. "Be very careful, Dr. Rodriguez. Accusations like that carry serious legal consequences. So does contractor fraud. So does falsifying safety certifications. So does getting people killed." Blake spoke from where he'd been standing against the wall. "Dr. Rodriguez has offered a solution. Treat the minimally exposed operators, clear them in 72 hours, deploy a 5-man team on a modified mission profile. It's not optimal, but it's operational." The Pentagon liaison saw the out. Modified mission, reduced scope, better than a complete scrub. Brennan looked at Marcus Webb. Webb was calculating. A modified mission with 5 healthy operators might succeed, might not trigger investigations, might keep Sentinel's problems buried. "If the mission succeeds," Webb said carefully, "there's no reason to pursue these contamination concerns further. Our Building 6 can be properly decontaminated and the matter resolved." Maya understood the subtext. Keep quiet, let us fix this quietly, and everyone walks away. But keeping quiet was what got Daniel killed. Before she could respond, the conference room door opened. Captain Lisa Chen walked in carrying a federal warrant. "Admiral Brennan, I'm Captain Lisa Chen, DOD Inspector General's Office. I have a warrant to inspect Building 6 and seize all documentation related to Sentinel Defense Solutions decontamination work at Naval Station Coronado." Marcus Webb's face went white. "This is harassment. Sentinel is under federal investigation for contractor fraud, falsification of safety documents, and conspiracy to defraud the Department of Defense. Mr. Webb, you're required to preserve all company records pending investigation." The room erupted, Brennan demanding to know what authority Chen had, Webb screaming about lawyers, the Pentagon liaison trying to understand what was happening. Chen walked over to Maya and quietly said, "You got me the medical evidence. I got the warrant. Sentinel's finished." But Maya was thinking about the 12 operators, about the mission that would launch in 30 hours regardless of warrants and investigations. She turned to Brennan. "Admiral, I can still clear 5 operators for deployment, modified mission profile. And when they come back alive and successful, you can take credit for adaptive planning under pressure." Brennan looked at her with open hatred, but he needed the mission to succeed more than he needed revenge. "You have 72 hours. Or clear whoever you can." Maya left the conference room at 0400 Sunday morning with official authorization and a DOD security escort. She'd won, sort of. 5 operators would deploy instead of 12. Sentinel was under investigation. Justice was moving forward, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. At 600 Sunday morning, Ryan Mitchell called her. "Dr. Rodriguez, you need to see something." She drove to the base. Mitchell took her to Building 6, where federal inspectors were already documenting contamination. But Mitchell showed her something else, a maintenance log from 2019. Building 6 hadn't just been used for Team 7's training. It had been used for 12 other units over the past 6 months, dozens of operators and support personnel, all potentially exposed. Maya felt sick. "Guys, we need to test everyone who trained here." "We will, but there's something else." He showed her another document, a memo from 3 weeks ago. Dr. Vincent Carlisle had received lab results showing elevated toxin markers in 3 operators from a different SEAL team. He'd dismissed the results as lab error and cleared the operators for deployment anyway. That team had deployed 2 weeks ago to Somalia. High-risk direct action mission. Maya's hands started shaking. "Where are they now?" Mitchell's expression was grim. "2 are dead, mission failure, official cause, compromised by enemy intelligence, but the after-action report mentions operators suffering unexpected fatigue and impaired judgment." They hadn't just stumbled onto a cover-up. They'd stumbled onto active, ongoing negligence that was getting people killed. Maya spent the next 72 hours working around the clock, treating the 5 minimally exposed operators with aggressive chelation therapy, monitoring the 7 others on 30-day protocols, documenting everything for Captain Chen's investigation. Jessica Kim took leave from Mercy Point to help. Blake coordinated logistics. Mitchell managed team operations. And Maya barely slept, thinking about the operators already deployed, about the ones who'd died, about her brother. By Wednesday evening, she'd cleared 5 operators for deployment. Blood work clean, physical capability tests normal. They were ready. The modified mission launched Thursday morning at 0600 hours, 5 operators instead of 12. Adjusted objectives, Blake leading, Mitchell going as medic. Maya watched them board the transport, feeling the weight of every decision she'd made. And the mission would take 9 days. 9 days to find out if she'd saved them or sent them to die anyway. While Team 7 was deployed, Captain Chen's investigation accelerated. Federal inspectors found contamination in Building 6 at levels 20 times higher than safety limits. They found falsified decontamination reports for 15 different facilities. They found evidence that Sentinel Defense Solutions had been systematically defrauding DoD for 5 years. Marcus Webb and 2 other Sentinel executives were arrested. Dr. Vincent Carlisle was placed on administrative leave. The base environmental office director resigned, but Maya couldn't celebrate. Not until she knew Team 7 was safe. On day 7 of the deployment, she got a call from Pentagon operations. Blake's team had engaged enemy forces, 2 operators wounded. Mission objectives compromised. They were extracting early. Maya's heart stopped. Wounded, compromised. Which operators were wounded? Information classified, ma'am. She waited. 48 hours of absolute silence. No updates, no communications. Then, on day 9, the transport landed at Naval Station Coronado. Maya was there on the tarmac. She saw 5 operators walk off that plane, tired, dirty, but alive, all 5. Blake saw her and walked over. Mission successful, modified objectives achieved, both wounded operators stable and recovering. The contamination wasn't a factor. Your treatment worked. We were effective. Ryan Mitchell joined them, grinning. Better than effective. We were surgical. Relief flooded through Maya so intensely she had to sit down. They'd made it. They'd survived. She'd made the right call. Oh, but Blake's expression was serious. There's something you need to know. During the operation, we recovered intelligence, documents. One of them was a Sentinel Defense Solutions contract proposal. He handed her a tablet. The document outlined a $400 million expansion of decontamination work. New facilities, new contracts. It was dated 6 months ago, and it was signed by someone Maya recognized, Admiral Richard Brennan. Brennan hadn't just covered for Sentinel. He'd been partnered with them, receiving consulting fees for steering contracts their way. That's why he'd fought so hard against her findings. That's why he'd tried to make her back down. It wasn't just about the mission. It was about protecting a lucrative relationship. Maya showed the document to Captain Chen. Chen smiled. That's the last piece we needed. Thank you, Doctor. Or Rodriguez. Within a week, Admiral Brennan was relieved of command pending investigation. The consulting relationship was exposed. Congressional hearings were scheduled. Sentinel Defense Solutions collapsed under the weight of federal charges, and Dr. Maya Rodriguez received a call from the Pentagon. 3 weeks after SEAL Team 7's successful deployment, Maya stood in an office she'd never expected to occupy. Not because she'd failed, but because she'd succeeded too well. The Pentagon had offered her a position, Special Medical Advisor to Naval Special Warfare Command, oversight of operator health across all SEAL teams, authority to override local commanders on medical grounds, real power to prevent what had almost happened to Team 7. She'd accepted, not for the title, not for the authority, but because she could finally finish what Daniel had started. Her first official act was implementing mandatory independent medical reviews for all operators before deployment. Second act, requiring independent verification of all facility decontamination work. Third, establishing a direct reporting line for any operator who had health concerns, bypassing local command. The system fought her. Base commanders complained about delays. Contractors protested the increased oversight. Admiral Brennan's allies in the Pentagon tried to limit her authority. But she had something they didn't. 12 SEAL operators who'd refused to deploy without her. A federal investigation that had exposed $200 million in fraud. And a dead brother whose sacrifice finally meant something. Captain Lisa Chen's investigation expanded beyond Sentinel. Now they found a network of defense contractors engaged in systematic fraud. 15 companies, 47 falsified safety reports, building contamination affecting hundreds of military personnel across 12 installations. The investigation revealed something worse. 3 other service members had died in the past 2 years from exposure-related complications. Their deaths had been attributed to other causes, training accidents, medical conditions. No one had connected them to facility contamination, until Maya's intervention with SEAL Team 7 forced everyone to look. Congressional hearings began in April. Maya was called to testify. She sat in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee and told them about Daniel, about Torres, about the 12 operators who'd almost deployed contaminated. What about the 2 SEAL team members who'd died in Somalia because Dr. Carlisle had ignored warning signs? Senator Patricia Lawson, chair of the committee, asked her directly, "Dr. Rodriguez, in your professional medical opinion, how many lives were saved by your refusal to follow protocol?" Maya thought carefully. Team 7, 12 operators, the support staff, 3 individuals. The dozens of personnel who would have trained in Building 6 before the investigation shut it down, conservatively, another 40. The service members who would have been exposed at the 14 other contaminated facilities, hundreds, potentially thousands. And it cost you your job. Yes, ma'am. Would you make the same choice again? Maya didn't hesitate. Every time. The hearings led to sweeping reforms, new contractor oversight regulations, independent safety verification requirements, whistleblower protections for military medical personnel, mandatory facility testing before training use. They called it the Rodriguez Protocol. Daniel would have appreciated the irony. Dr. Kenneth Hartwell from Mercy Point requested a meeting with Maya in May. They met at a coffee shop in La Jolla. He looked older, tired. The DoD contract Mercy Point had been fighting for had been cancelled. The hospital was under federal review for prioritizing efficiency metrics over patient care. He told her he'd been wrong, that he'd let the system push him into valuing numbers over lives, that watching her lose everything for doing the right thing had forced him to confront what he'd become. I've recommended to the hospital board that we eliminate efficiency-based performance metrics for medical staff. Patient outcomes only, no cost considerations in clinical decision-making. Maya accepted his apology. The system needs to change, not just at Mercy Point, everywhere. You're changing it, one protocol at a time. But the person who surprised Maya most was Admiral Brennan. He didn't contact her directly. But 2 months after his relief from command, a package arrived at her office. Inside, a handwritten letter. "Dr. Rodriguez, I owe you an apology I'll never be able to adequately express. My partnership with Sentinel was initiated for legitimate reasons. They offered competitive pricing and had an established track record. But over time, financial incentives clouded my judgment. When you presented evidence of contamination, I should have listened. Instead, I protected my interests and endangered the lives of operators who trusted me. Oh, there's no excuse. I accept full responsibility for my failures. The investigation will end my career, as it should, but I wanted you to know that because of your courage, reforms are being implemented that will save lives for decades. That's a legacy worth more than any rank or position. Thank you for doing what I failed to do. Richard Brennan." Maya filed the letter away. It didn't excuse what he'd done, but it was something, an acknowledgement, an acceptance of responsibility. Justice wasn't always dramatic. Sometimes it was just a letter from a disgraced admiral admitting he was wrong. The real celebration came on a Saturday afternoon in June when all 12 SEAL Team 7 operators showed up at her office. They'd just completed another successful deployment. This time at full strength with all 12 operators medically cleared and healthy. They brought gifts, a custom medical kit for her office, a plaque to Dr. Maya Rodriguez, the only doctor we trust, and something else, a letter from the families of the 2 SEAL operators who died in Somalia. Ryan Mitchell handed it to her. Their families wanted you to know the investigation into their deaths led to changes that will protect others. Their sacrifice wasn't meaningless because you made sure we learned from it. Maya read the letters and had to step away for a moment. Two families thanking her for exposing the truth about why their loved ones died. It was almost too much. David Torres pulled out his phone. "There's one more thing. We took a vote. The team wants to make this official." He showed her a formal petition. And all 12 operators had signed it, along with operators from 3 other SEAL teams. They were requesting that Dr. Maya Rodriguez be designated as the primary medical authority for Naval Special Warfare Command, not just an advisor, full authority. "We trust you," Torres said simply. "That matters more than rank or title." Lieutenant Commander Aaron Blake stepped forward. Their relationship over the past months had evolved from professional respect into something deeper. He'd been there through the hearings, through the investigation, through the late nights when Maya questioned whether any of it mattered. "There's something else," Blake said. "I've been offered a position at Special Warfare Headquarters, Deputy Commander of Operations. I turned it down." Maya looked at him confused. "Why?" "That's a significant promotion." "Because I requested reassignment to Special Warfare Medical Command instead, as your deputy, if you'll have me." She understood what he was offering. Not just professional partnership, but commitment to the mission they'd started together. To finishing what Daniel had begun. "I'd be honored to work with you." "Good. Because we've got 14 more contaminated facilities to clean up, 47 contractors to investigate, and about 1,000 military personnel who need proper medical screening." Maya smiled. "When do we start?" "Monday morning." The team stayed for 2 hours, sharing stories, talking about future deployments, making plans. When they finally left, Maya stood in her office looking at the plaque on her wall. Next to it, she'd hung 2 photos. One of Daniel in his Marine Corps uniform, or one of SEAL Team 7 on the tarmac after their successful deployment. Her phone rang. Captain Lisa Chen. "Maya, we got the verdict in the Sentinel case. All 3 executives convicted on all counts. Federal prison, minimum 15 years each." Maya closed her eyes. "That's good. There's more. The investigation expanded to 32 defense contractors. We're looking at potentially the largest military fraud case in 50 years, all because you refused to follow protocol on a Tuesday night." "I was just doing my job." "You were doing Daniel's job, finishing what he started." After hanging up, Maya sat down at her desk and pulled out a piece of paper. She'd been writing something for weeks, trying to find the right words. "A letter to Daniel," she wrote. "Daniel, it's been 7 years since you died trying to expose Sentinel Defense Solutions. 7 years since you filed that complaint they buried. 7 years since you tried to save the lives of people you'd never meet. I want you to know they didn't bury it forever. Sentinel is gone, convicted, finished. The contractors who falsified reports are facing federal charges. The officers who looked the other way are under investigation. The facilities you knew were contaminated are being properly cleaned. And the 12 SEAL operators who would have died like you did are alive. They're safe. They're operational. Because you taught me to trust my instinct. Because you showed me that some things are worth fighting for, even when the cost is everything. I miss you every day, but I understand now why you did what you did, why you took the risk." "Why you wouldn't back down? You were trying to save people you'd never meet. People who'd train in facilities years after you were gone. People who'd trust that when the military said something was safe, it actually was. You died for that trust, but because of you, that trust now means something. They call it the Rodriguez Protocol, safety reforms, whistleblower protections, independent verification. They named it after me, but it's yours, Daniel. This is your legacy. I'm just the one who got to finish it. Rest easy, brother. The work you started is done, and I promise I'll make sure it stays done. Love, Maya. She folded the letter, put it in an envelope, and placed it in her desk drawer next to his autopsy report and the investigation files. Then she opened her laptop and got back to work. In 14 contaminated facilities to investigate, new safety protocols to implement, hundreds of personnel to screen. The work was never really done, but at least now she was doing it with the authority and resources to actually make a difference. A knock on her door. Blake stood there with coffee. Working late? Always. What have you got? He handed her a file. Building 9 at Camp Pendleton, decontaminated 3 years ago by... Guess who? Maya opened the file and saw the contractor name, Sentinel Defense Solutions. They were busy. Marines trained there last month. No medical issues reported yet, but given the pattern, we test everyone who's been in that building in the past year immediately, and we shut it down pending independent verification. Blake smiled. Already done? Sent the orders 2 hours ago? Good. Or what else? Senator Lawson wants to expand the Rodriguez Protocol to all military facilities, not just training sites. She's drafting legislation. That'll be a fight. Contractors will push back hard. Let them. We've got the evidence. We've got the support. And we've got time. Maya looked at the photo of SEAL Team 7 on her wall. Yeah, we've got time. Blake hesitated, then said, There's one more thing. Personal, not professional. Maya looked up. I'd like to take you to dinner, not as colleagues, as something else. She'd felt the connection between them for weeks. Shared mission, shared values, something deeper than professional respect. I'd like that. Tomorrow night? Tomorrow night? After Blake left, Maya turned off her office lights and stood at the window overlooking the special warfare training grounds. All operators running night drills, preparing for deployments, trusting that the system would protect them. She'd make sure that trust wasn't misplaced. 3 months ago, she'd been fired from Mercy Point Naval Hospital for refusing to follow protocol, for ordering expensive tests, for trusting her instinct over institutional efficiency. Now she was the person who wrote the protocols, who decided what testing was necessary, who protected operators from institutional failures. The system hadn't reformed completely. Admiral Brennan's allies still had power. Contractors were already finding new ways to game regulations. Budget pressures still pushed commanders to prioritize costs over safety. But things had changed, real change, measurable change. 0 operators had deployed with undisclosed medical conditions since her appointment. 12 contaminated facilities had been properly cleaned. 32 contractors were under investigation. New whistleblower protections meant medical personnel could report concerns without fear of retaliation. It wasn't perfect, but it was better, significantly better. Maya locked her office and walked to her car. Tomorrow she'd be back at it. More facilities to investigate, more protocols to implement, more operators to protect. But tonight, she'd have dinner with someone who understood what it cost to choose principle over career, who'd made similar choices, who'd stood with her when institutions fought back. And she'd remember that 7 years ago, her brother had started this fight knowing he might not live to see it finished, but it was finished now. Not completely, not perfectly, but finished enough that the next generation of operators would train in facilities that were actually safe, would trust medical personnel who had authority to challenge command, would deploy healthy instead of contaminated. That was Daniel's legacy, and Maya Rodriguez's promise. She'd protect it no matter what. Maya Rodriguez's story teaches us something that makes people uncomfortable. Doing the right thing usually costs everything. She didn't uncover corruption through clever investigation. She didn't have special resources or unique access. She just refused to ignore what her training told her was true. And that refusal destroyed her career, made her enemies, and nearly got her killed. But it saved lives, dozens of lives, potentially hundreds. Think about the people in this story who made different choices. Dr. E. Hartwell followed the rules even when the rules killed people. He's not a monster. He's what most of us become when institutions pressure us to prioritize metrics over morality. When career security matters more than moral clarity. Admiral Brennan protected his financial interests instead of his operators. He convinced himself that Sentinel was legitimate, that efficiency mattered, that one doctor's concerns could be dismissed. His choices killed 2 operators in Somalia and nearly killed 12 more. Dr. Carlisle saw warning signs and ignored them because acknowledging them would create problems he didn't want to deal with. His negligence was passive, not active, but it was just as lethal. And then the 12 operators who refused to deploy. They had everything to lose: career, reputation, criminal charges for disobeying orders. But they trusted the doctor who'd proven trustworthy. That trust saved their lives. Here's what Maya's story teaches. 1. Systems protect themselves, not the people in them. Maya was fired for being right because institutions value compliance over correctness. 2. Courage requires sacrifice. Maya lost her job, her security, her reputation. She gained purpose, integrity, and impact. That trade isn't equal. Purpose doesn't pay bills, but it's the only trade worth making. 3. One person with evidence and courage can break institutional corruption. Maya had no authority, no position, no power, but she had medical proof and moral clarity. That was enough. 4. Justice is slow, imperfect, and incomplete. Brennan lost his command, but not his pension. The Sentinel executives went to prison, but the contractors who enabled them mostly walked free. Reforms happened, but not fast enough to save everyone. 5. The fight never ends. 14 more facilities needed investigation. New contractors were already finding loopholes. Budget pressures would always push against safety. Maya would fight these battles for the rest of her career. The question this story asks isn't, would you be as brave as Maya Rodriguez? The real question is, what are you ignoring right now that you know is wrong? What institutional failure are you accepting because challenging it would cost you? What truth are you avoiding because speaking it would destroy your security? Most of us aren't Maya, we're Hartwell. Following rules we know are wrong because we're scared of the consequences of questioning them. The difference between Maya and everyone else wasn't courage, it was clarity about what mattered. She knew that saving lives mattered more than keeping her job. That moral clarity made every choice simple. Not easy, but simple. What's your clarity? What matters enough that you'd sacrifice everything else to protect it? Maya found her answer reading lab results in a hospital parking lot at 01:30 hours. Results that would end her career if she acted on them. She acted anyway. When will you?